Welcome to Hey Therapist. I'm your host, Leslie Ross. With me is my producer, Jay Wesley Lindley. Let's get mental. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hey Therapist. I want to apologize for not having an episode last week. I went on a trip and then time got away from me and got a little crazy because life and all those things. Today, we're going to talk about effective communication skills. And I know we've been on kind of this relationship kick, but I think it's super important to have good communication. And I've said it 1,000 times when we're talking about relationships, but I just want to make sure that everyone understands communication is not confrontation. And it's one of those things that, especially when a relationship is going maybe not so great, when you really need it. Because if your relationship's plugging along and you're doing great and everyone is on the same page and we're all happy and we're having all the good talks, that's fine. But you don't really know someone until you have some sort of conflict with them. And that really always comes. I mean, there's no relationship where you're not going to have some sort of conflict, where you're not going to have some sort of disagreement, or you don't agree on a topic, or you can't come to a good conclusion on things. And sometimes you just have to walk away and leave it. Good communication. You know, again, we all know that I love the reality shows, and Love is Blind is back on, even with all of the craziness and the lawsuits and everything else that happened with previous versions, that all these people have come out with these suits and claims about how they mistreat the cast and all of those things. We're still back for another season. One of the things that you really see in this show, and yes, I know it's scripted. I know it's a reality show, that not everything is real, whatever, while they're in the pods. Because the premise of the show is these people are dating sight unseen. So you're in these pods and you're talking through a wall. You don't get to see each other. You just get to build this relationship over however many days or weeks that it is. Now, some people have left the show and found each other again, and they've dated and done things. But, the premise of the show that follows the couples that get engaged. And the idea is, obviously, hence the title, Love is Blind. The attraction grows, that you can get to know someone and then you'll be attracted to them, which, yes and no. I mean, there has to be the tingle. We've talked about that. There has to be a little bit of a tingle. You've got to look at them and be like, okay, I can work with this because I know their personality. I know what they said. Now I have to see actions. And one of the things that's so interesting about the show is how you see communication change from within the pods to when they actually see the person, because there are certainly couples who are not attracted to each other and their communication stops and they stop having those long, deep talks and they stop having all of that stuff go on. It's interesting to see how it changes from the pods to the outside world and how they're addressing things that they don't like about each other, because now they're seeing habits. They're getting to see personality traits. When you get upset, you withdraw or whatever it is, but they're not having talks about this. Like they may have said, yeah, I like my alone time, whatever. But now they're getting upset about something and they're leaving instead of saying, hey, I need to go take a break, whatever it is. And you see this on a lot of reality dating shows. And it's a method that a lot of people have gotten used to as their mode of operation when they get upset, is they just leave. And it's okay to leave. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to walk away, because we are not rational when we are emotional. It's not okay to not communicate that. They're not communicating, they're just leaving, or they're going and staying away for a long time. And they may be checking in saying, yeah, I'm here, but then they're not getting home until super late. All of the things that come with, a relationship when you don't really know anybody or when you don't know them. Exactly. But one of the things that you see is when there is conflict, how there's kind of abusive language, and there's a lot of red flags happening from the men and the women. We have the one guy who was out all day, and he's like, but I kissed you this morning, then I was busy. I was busy all day and I didn't have time to give you any affection or attention. bro, what? You work from home. She's not working. Like, what? Right now, like, you're in the house together. How did you not have any time to check in, to say hey, to whatever? But, he's one of those guys who, while they're in the pods, kind of ask what she looked like. Well, you're probably not in it for the right reasons. It's one of those things where it's important that they learn each other in the real world now, because they've gotten to know them online. It's kind of like online dating used to be before there were the dating apps where you just swiped and met up and all of the things. You chatted with someone for a long time, and probably straight online, straight through text. And then you might pick up the phone and have a phone call. And then you might set up times to meet someone. So it kind of is the premise of how it used to be in the online dating world. But it's just a little, I don't know. I love some trash TV, so whatever. But the other thing that I have friends, shockingly, no, people put up with me. It's crazy. But I have a friend who's going through, she's been dating this guy and it was good and now it's not, but she wants it to be good again, but he is absolutely not meeting her needs. She's going through a really hard time and he needs to step up, and she needs him to step up, and she has asked him to step up. She has said, hey, I really need you. Can you come over? And they're not people who see each other every day, every night. Like, that's not their pattern. Like, they don't see each other that often because of work schedules, whatever. But she said, hey, I really need you. I'm struggling. Can you come over? And they hadn't seen each other in probably a week or so. And he said, no, I really just want some alone time. Yeah, that's not ideal. And not that he doesn't have a right to his alone time, but also knowing your partner and knowing her, she's not one that's going to ask unless she needs you. She's not one that's going to ask for help. She's not going to ask you to come over she will just to come over because she wants to see. But, she's going through some things right now, and he just dismissed it. And he's dismissed some other things. And there's this struggle that we have when we want someone to be what we know they can be, and they show us who they are in this moment. And sometimes that just means that they're not our person, at least not right now. And it's happened to everyone I know where they've stayed in and hung on, knowing that they could be better, that they, have this in them, and whatever has happened, maybe a life event, maybe they've just changed. You don't have to stay for that. And we can wish and hope that they would be back to that person and that they want to do the things. And they may be saying, I want to do better. If they want to, they will. If someone wants to make time for you, they will. If someone wants to talk to you, they will. If someone wants to see you, they will make it a point to do that. And that's what I have to remind people, and even myself sometimes in dating. If they want to, they will. And if someone keeps blowing you off, and it may seem like valid reasons, but they have an excuse every time, it's a problem. Because if they want to, they will. Maybe they will just say, I don't want to. I don't want to do this right now. I thought I could do this and I can't. Respect that. Because if they're telling you that, they probably mean it. Or they just don't want to do it with you. And that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes too. Maybe you break up or whatever, and then the next week, month, whatever, they're with someone and they're moving in and they're doing all the things. And you're like, oh, cool. And then we start questioning our self-worth. We start questioning, why wasn't I good enough? Why did they not want me like that? What did I do wrong? Probably nothing. You're just not the one for them. And I would just about bet that you can look back in your relationships and recognize someone who was great that you dated, that was, really a good person, a good partner. They could make you smile, but they weren't the one for you. They checked a lot of boxes, but not all of them, and not maybe the most important ones to you. So they sufficed for a little while as a partner. They were good. You were happy because maybe it was safe, but they weren't the one for you. And that's where good communication comes in. And when you're asking for your needs, because everyone's needs and wants in a relationship are valid. They are yours. They are what you need. They are what you want. And if someone is saying, no, I can't, or I won't, or I don't wanna, then you have to decide how important that is to you. And when you start letting go of your needs and wants just because the person you're with does not want to meet those needs and wants, it's going to lead to some resentment. It's going to lead to you not being happy in that relationship. And then you're, further in and deeper in than you want to be. And they care way more, or you care way more about them than they care about you. It's not a good balance. I had someone just the other day in a conversation say, yeah, someone told me one time that the person who has the most power is the person that cares the least. And I thought, my God, what a terrible way to think about relationships. Like, I don't want to think about that. Like, if you're with someone who is not matching your energy and doesn't care about you in the same level or amount that you care about them, why are you in that relationship? If you know that you care more, if you in your heart know, well, I love them more than they love me, and you throw a but after that, no. If you love them way more than they love you, and you're putting in more effort than they're putting in and all of those things, why are you with them? Because you don't want to be alone? Trust me, being alone can suck. I know. I've gotten really good at it though. When you're alone, at least there's no one to disappoint you, except for yourself every now and then. I mean, I disappoint myself every now and then, but it's okay because I keep it moving and I'm not like getting mad at myself for it. But when you're with someone, if you have a partner and you're constantly disappointed, if you have a partner and they're constantly letting you down, first off, we do always have to check our standards and our expectations. Are they realistic? Are we really asking for too much? If you're like, you haven't talked to me and I haven't heard from you all day. And they're like, well, I messaged you this morning and then I messaged you when I could at lunch. Like, I don't know, but they're wanting you to message all day, every day. Well, that's a conversation that you have. Listen, that's unrealistic. I can't do that. I know in your job or whatever you do all day, you have your phone, you're able to do that. You can, talk to me, you can do all of the things. And I can't do that though. I've had it where, because in the beginning you want to talk all the time, both of you almost all the time. And I had somebody say, I can't talk to you between these hours because it's disruptive. Like I'm trying to get my job done. And so I need like these hours where we can't talk as much because it's just, you're distracting me. And it's in a good way. Like I was a distraction in a good way. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, I get it. But I'm still going to message you. You just don't have to answer me back or whatever. It's one of those things that you set up those boundaries and those guidelines because you do recognize, listen, I really enjoy talking to you. I really want to do these things, but it's distracting me. So I have to like put my phone down and I can't answer you. And I may not get back to you in the time frame because it's distracting me. And it's, like I said, it's a good distraction, especially in the beginning when it's all new and fun and you just are just so in love or getting there that you don't want to not talk to them. You just want to talk to them all the time. It's a great feeling. However, we have to respect boundaries because, at any age, most of the time you can't be on the phone all the time. And if they have an expectation that you check in all the time, that you are doing all these things, that's a them issue. And it's also kind of indicative of controlling behavior. If, you're doing something and you don't answer and they get mad at you about it. Why didn't you answer me? I meant you did it. And you're like, bro, I was doing this. Like I told you I was doing this. It can be frustrating. And I've dealt with that in different situations, even just being out with friends. If you have a partner, you can say, I'm going to be out with my friends. I may not answer you, whatever, because I try to be very present and put my phone down and not be on the phone all the time. And even if it's new and you just love that person, you want to tell them what's going on, you find those moments to do that. But for the most part, you should be present with the people that you're with instead of focused on your phone or having to focus on your phone. There's some skills to effective communication. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today is letting someone know and being able to communicate. Because, with my dear friend, she is like, how do I break up with this guy? Like, I don't know how to break up with him because he's a good guy, but he's not meeting these needs. So how do I break up with this guy because he's not meeting my needs and it's making me sad? And I'm like, well, that should be like, it's not hard. You say, hey, you're not meeting my needs. It's making me sad. Let's not see each other for a while and go from there. And if he decides that he wants to change and you decide that you want to give him a shot to change, that's fine too. But you have to set those hard boundaries sometimes. And it sucks, especially when they do have good qualities, when they do make you happy in these other areas. But when you truly need something, when it's not all fun and games, it's not all just going out on a date, it's not all doing this. When you truly need something, they're not there. They don't show up for you. And we all deserve someone who's going to show up for us in one way or another. Because even if he couldn't come over, he wanted some alone time. There's FaceTime. You can call, if you're an Android Apple couple, then you can call through Facebook Messenger. You can call through Snapchat. Like there's ways that you can communicate with each other and it not be face to face, but you can meet that need for your partner and say, listen, I can't come over. Maybe there's a long commute. Maybe I have the kids and I can't come see you because my kids are here, whatever it is. But, let me get that handled and then we'll FaceTime and we'll just fall asleep on the phone if that's what you need. But there was no offering of that. There was no communication of that. It was just like, no, I just need my time and you just need to deal with that. Cool story, bro. I'll give you all the free time you need. But sometimes it's hard because they do make us happy and they do make your heart happy. And we make a lot of excuses for people who make us happy until we get to the point where we just get so fed up that it may not end as well as it would have if when those first red flags started popping up, we said, whoa, hold on. We need to discuss this before we move forward. Where are we in this? How can you communicate better? How can I communicate better? What do you need? What do I need? And we go on from there. There's a way of communicating that's called Dear Man. And it's describe, express, assert, reinforce, be mindful, appear, and negotiate. So what all of those go through is, when you are trying to effectively communicate, we want to describe the situation objectively. I mean, sticking to the facts. We're not blaming. We're not interpreting. We're not assuming. We're not saying, well, I know you do this because you don't know why they do that. Maybe they do that because they don't want to. Maybe that's the simple answer. Not because you think they're doing these other things. It's because they don't want to. And they're not going to say that most of the time, but sometimes they will. We express what is creating the issue because people are not mind readers and we cannot expect them to know what we're going through because we all have different histories. That little kid in you takes over when we're emotional, and that little kid may think they're not good enough. That little kid may think all of these things, so they're going to make excuses to not do something. But it's I feel unheard. I feel like you're not meeting my needs because when I ask you to do something, you're not following through. Or I feel like you don't care the same way I do. I feel like I'm being dismissed because when I ask for you, you were too busy to show up and you had no real reason to be too busy to show up. So, it's that I feel because, and we're not blaming so much. It's not, I feel crappy because you said that, but you can say because of whatever action it is. Because when I ask you to come over and really needed you, you just dismissed that, or I felt like you dismissed that. We want to make it as many I statements as we can because it is what we are feeling. We don't know what's in their head. We don't know why they've done what they've done. We don't know why they made a choice that they made, but we know how it's made us feel. So we express that in those I statements. We are assertive, not aggressive. And a lot of people think communication is confrontation, and it's not. We can have assertive communication that's not aggressive, that's not harsh, that's not confrontational, that's not setting up to start a fight, but it's all in how we approach those things. If someone is saying, and you start beating around the bush, well, maybe, I don't know if I can get that done or not. No, just be direct and say, I can't do that because Maybe it's I don't want to. Maybe it's because I don't feel comfortable doing those things for people. And then you can have a conversation about what would make you more comfortable. It's saying, instead of well, maybe I can go or maybe I can try to fix this. I don't feel comfortable doing that. I'm not going to do that. And it may hurt someone's feelings, but I would rather hurt someone's feelings a little bit by being honest than hurt their feelings by not only being dishonest, but also beating around the bush and disappointing them. Man, I would rather hurt somebody's feelings than disappoint them. I hate disappointing people. That's I hate it. I will bend over backwards. I hate disappointing people. And I wouldn't say I'm a people pleaser, but I'm going to do what I can, because when I love people, my friends, family, whoever, if I loved you once, I still love you probably. I may not like you, but I still love you. I would still do anything in the world. If you call, I'm going to answer. All you got to do is dial. Then you reinforce. You reward people and respond well. We reinforce when they're like, oh, okay. You say thank you for understanding. And even if in that moment they're not being super understanding, or even in that moment that they are just accepting it, they may not like it. You can tell that they're a little upset by it. Thank you for your understanding. So we want to reinforce that we appreciate them listening, to hearing, to just hearing you out, all of those things. And we want to be mindful, because it's easy to get sidetracked into arguments. It's easy to start the blame game. It's easy to, target each other. It's easy to say, but you did. Okay, that's not what this is about. And if you have a issue with something, then you should have brought that up to them before this. That's one of my biggest pet peeves in relationships. And as a therapist, when I'm dealing with couples, as they get in there and someone may be doing really well with those expressive I statements, I feel like I'm disrespected or I'm not heard or whatever it is, because when I try to communicate, I feel like I'm being dismissed or da-da-da-da-da. And then the other partner, instead of listening, because they're listening to respond, not listening to receive, they go in with the, well, yeah, but you did this to me and da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh my God. Usually my first question is, well, why didn't you bring that up then? Well, because it wasn't that big of a deal. Well, if it's not that big of a deal, why are you bringing it up now? And you're bringing it up now because you're getting defensive. You're bringing it up now because you don't want to be the one who is being blamed for something or is negative or whatever it is. Cool, but you don't have to bring it up. Like, let them hear what they say. And then obviously, if you're bringing that thing up right now, then it might have been a big deal. We can discuss that, because obviously it hurt your feelings somehow. Obviously you felt disrespected. So let's figure out why. Let's figure out what was going on there. And one of the other things that you want to do when you're going into effective communication in any way is you want to be confident. You want to think about your body language, your tone, the way you're going into it. There's scientific evidence that there is a body posture, and they call it the Superman pose, I believe is what it's actually called. You put your hands on your hips, you look into the sky, and you hold that posture, and it's the superhero pose. And you just think about having that cape waving behind you and being strong and confident like a superhero. And then you go in and do your presentation, or you take your test, or you do whatever it is that is important to you or that you need a little boost for. And it works the same way with relationships. It works the same way with communication to anyone. Is if you go in confident because you know it's what you need. And that's the other thing. Sometimes our self-worth and our self-esteem plays a role in asking for what we need and what we want. But the more we ask for what we need and what we want, the greater our self-esteem is going to get. We're going to increase those levels of confidence because we can see that we can do it. We can ask for what we need and what we want. Sometimes we're going to get it. And sometimes people are going to say, yeah, no, I can't do that for you. At least I know. And you can move forward. You can go on to the next. You can accept that sadness and we just move forward about it. And then, in good communication is usually some compromise. So we negotiate. No one can get everything they want out of every communication, every interaction all the time. It's not going to happen. especially if you're in a relationship, or maybe it's a workplace environment. Maybe it's just friends. Maybe it's something else or something you wanted to do. You're planning a trip and you want to go do something particular, and some of the other group doesn't want to. And so you're like, okay, cool. What can we do otherwise? What can we do to make everyone happy? So we do those negotiations. Someone may want you, if you're living with someone, if you're in the household, you may hate doing all the dishes. You may hate doing all the chores, but you're okay with it. You don't like it, but you'll keep doing it. But then you get to the point where I don't want to do this anymore. So you make that compromise. Listen, I will wash the dishes, but you will put them up. Or I will do the laundry, but you're going to hang them. Or you can do the laundry and then I will fold them and put it away. And you create those compromises. And that's, the best way to form that good communication is to just really try to form good communication. Part of that, which I touched on earlier, is self-respect in your communication. We also have an acronym for effective skills in that, and it's called FAST. Be fair, apologize if you need to, stick to your values, and be truthful. Sometimes in relationships and things, you may find yourself betraying your own values, betraying your own needs because maybe we don't feel like we're worthy. Maybe we know that they're going through something and we just want to give them some grace, which is okay, but they can't always be going through it. We can't always give them grace when none of our needs are being met and we're just being sad in a relationship and staying because we don't want to be alone. I'm telling you, being alone is better. And if you're a person that's never been alone, that's also probably something that you need to look at within yourself. If you jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, and I'm not talking about dating. Like I'm not saying you can't go out and date and all the things and not be alone in that. I'm talking about going from relationship to relationship to relationship and really not having downtime to experience yourself, to reflect, to learn from it. Because one of the things that can come from a failed relationship is learning and appreciation. But when we're talking about communication, we want to be fair. And not just to the other person, but to ourselves. Like, are you betraying yourself in what you need? Are you saying, well, I don't really need that. I can do without that. When in fact, it's making you very sad that you're not getting it. Or most days you're okay with it, but when you really need it, it's not there. And that makes you very sad. Okay, you need to address that because your needs should not make you sad. Again, unless they're unrealistic. But then you work on that. But for the most part, most people I know, even some of those who have some unrealistic expectations in relationships, they recognize they have unrealistic expectations in relationships. So when they're telling these stories and saying, yeah, it's just terrible, or they're doing this or that, are they though? And they're like, well, not really, but it feels like it because I'm needy or whatever. Okay, well, if you know you're needy, that's fine. Be needy. You don't put that on somebody else. And we apologize when we need to, but we don't apologize for feeling what we feel. We don't apologize for making a request. We don't apologize for asking someone to meet our needs. And we don't apologize for crying. We don't apologize for feeling our feels. One of the things that frustrates me so much is when I'm talking to someone and they start to cry. And they're like, I'm so sorry. Why are you sorry? You're feeling your feelings. They're coming out. I am a mad crier. When I get really, really mad, I cry. Because it just boils up and then I'm mad that I'm crying. And so it just keeps getting worse and worse. We don't apologize for our feelings. We don't apologize because someone has made you feel a certain way. You get to say, listen, I'm upset by this. And they say, well, da-da-da-da. And you say, oh, I'm sorry. No, it made you feel a certain way. You've expressed that, period. We don't apologize for feeling our feelings. We don't apologize for asking for listen, I'm sorry. I know you're busy, but could you please, what? If you are in especially a relationship with someone, it shouldn't be putting them out to come over. It shouldn't be putting them out to ask for a phone call or to say, listen, I'm really needing attention right now because this is going on and I could really use your support. And they say, well, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. No, stop apologizing. We are not apologizing for our feelings, and stick to your values. There is room for compromise. Of course, there's always room for compromise, but sometimes it's not a lot of room. If you value quality time, if that may be your love language, if you value physical touch, if you value communication and they're ghosting you, or they're not coming over when they say they're going to come over, or they're not taking the time to make time for you, you get to be upset by that. You get to be disappointed by that, and you get to ask for that. Hey, listen, this is one of the things I value. I don't feel like you're giving me enough of that. Is that something we can change? Is that something we can work on? And find out how they're feeling about it. See where they are on it. And they may say, yeah, no, I really don't like doing that. That's not something that I do. Okay, but it's something that I need. So can we work on it? And they're like, yes, I can work on it. Like, let me work on it. Even if it means you have to remind them, hey, don't forget, you're supposed to come out. Hey, don't forget, because eventually it'll become a habit, especially if it's not something that they truly don't do. Like maybe they really are not a big phone person. Maybe they really do not have their phone in their hand, which almost everybody does all the time. But maybe they don't. Maybe that's just not something that they have ever gotten on. They don't have any socials. They don't play any games. So their phone is just a phone. They may use it for research every now and then or whatever. You know that their phone is not in their hand. So if you text them and they don't text back right away, you know that the phone is probably laying beside them because you've been around them and you've spent time with them and you see that they lay their phone down and they don't pick it back up that when they're with you. And it's not just being respectful to you. It's just because that's how they are with their phone. Because even if you're with somebody, if you're a phone person, you have your phone in your hand. You may be mid-conversation. You're going to check your phone if it goes off. And yeah, it's probably pretty rude. Everybody's gotten used to it. People who have the smartwatches, you're sitting there talking to them and they're looking at checking their wrist and reading things. So it's just kind of the world we're in. I try to be very mindful about it. At least, it's one of the things that I've worked on myself about because I was that person. It's like, I wasn't even thinking about it really being a big deal. But, if someone's there spending time or whatever, we don't want to be on our phones. It's fine. Be mindful about that. But there's nothing wrong with asking for what you need. And you want to do it in an honest, truthful way. We're not manipulating people. We're not making things bigger than they are. We're not throwing fits. We're not saying manipulative things. We're not using the relationship as a bargaining chip. We're not threatening things we don't mean. We are being truthful and honest about what we need. There's no lying about how it makes you feel. Helplessness. Don't be helpless. You can do things on your own. You're fine. And also sometimes you want somebody to do it with. And sometimes you ask for that and they don't meet that need. And then again, we have to decide, is this a need that I want met? Is this something that is important to me, or can I let it go? Another thing about kind of assertive communication is just be truthful to yourself and respect yourself. Don't cower to someone else's needs just because, again, you don't want to be alone or you don't want to hurt their feelings. Like, you may care a lot about this person. The likelihood is that you do because you're in a relationship with them, or they're a family member, or it's a good friend. You may care a lot about them and their feelings, but you also have to respect yourself. And if someone is crossing boundaries, if someone is not meeting needs, if someone is doing things to push our buttons, where is the self-respect? Where has that gone for you? And how do we work on getting that back? I'd be happy to help you get that back, because I don't care who you are or what your past is, what you've done to yourself, what you've done to other people, how you've acted, decisions you've made, choices you've made. We all deserve love. And sometimes people deserve another chance. And sometimes we deserve to be happy. And I think that that's true for everyone. I truly believe that if you have done the work on yourself, if you are in a good place, if you can be alone, if you are okay with you, if you have healthy communication as you can, all of those things, then you deserve happiness. You deserve to find a partner. You deserve love. And it's really hard these days to find that. And it's hard to know when it's genuine. And it's hard to trust people after you've been through quite a bit of things. But if you go in with walls up, if you go in thinking they're going to fail you, if you go in thinking you're not worthy of love, then all of those things will be true. because you will push them away. You will create scenarios where you self-sabotage or you start pushing buttons just to see how they're going to react instead of saying, ooh, this feels really good and it's making me scared. I need to know if you're feeling the same way. I need to know where we are on this. I need some reassurance. And if they can't give you that, then maybe it's not time for them to be in your life. And I'm not saying that people can't come back in people's lives, that things can't change and circle back around and make things work. But there's comes a time where they're not ready for you or you're not ready for them. And you have to move on because it's not fair. It's not fair to keep someone in a relationship with you just because you don't want to be alone or you don't want to see them with someone else. Like, come on, that's crazy. Like, if you really care about this person, you want them to be happy. You want them to find their happiness, no matter how much it hurt you that you're not with them anymore. You want them to be happy because you actually care about them. Do you wish it would have been with you? Sure. I think we all have the one or ones that got away, that you wish things would have been different, that you wish things could have turned out a different way. But they turned out the way that I feel like they're supposed to, even if it sucks, even if it makes you sad. If you were supposed to be with that person, it would have worked out. And I'm a firm believer in that, life throws some curveballs. And if you're not on the same team, then that curveball is what puts you out of the game. If a relationship fails because of something that intervened or something that came up or, whatever it is, then it wasn't the relationship for you. And it may have really felt like the relationship for you. And I've had to come to terms with that a couple times in life. It may have really felt like it was the relationship for you. They were the one. And now they're not. But in those communication things, we have to be able to talk to them and say, hey, listen, this is what I need. This is what I want. And we want to be able to say, I really am feeling a certain way. And we say it calmly and rationally. We are not rational when we are emotional. And if you have hurt feelings and you're sad or you're pissed about something or whatever's happened, and you come in hot, whether it's emotionally hot, like tearfully and upset, or you're just angry and coming in super aggressive, the other person is not going to hear you. They stopped listening when they saw your body language, when they heard your tone, when they got that message from you that said, we need to talk. Ew. Don't ever send that message to anybody. And if you do, I'm going to say don't use those words. We need to talk usually never ends well. You can rephrase that. And especially if you're dating someone who you know is probably anxiously attached, which a lot of people are. Especially in these age ranges that are my listeners, we have some anxious attachment things. We know things can go wrong. We're fearful of relationships. We are all of these things. So the better option is to say, hey, listen, my feelings were hurt by this, and I would really love to talk to you about that this evening when we get home or when I see you. I would like to have a communication about this. And that way it gives the other person also a time to reflect and they're not caught off guard. Whereas if you're supposed to just be having a nice night watching TV and you just spring something on someone and your partner and they may get a little defensive, then, it's not so fair. So maybe preemptively say, listen, I really need to talk to you about this. What you said about this really hurt my feelings. And the way you said it really hurt my feelings. Because it may have been something valid, but it could have been the way you said it really hurt my feelings. I would really like to talk about how we can communicate better. That's way better than we need to talk later. Because in most people's minds, they're like, just break up with me now. It's fine. It's over. Okay, cool. I don't know what I did, but it's over. Just be mindful what you're sending out there and how you're communicating that, and plan on what you're going to say. And this goes into the calmness of it. This goes into the going in not super emotional. Is you're going to plan out what you're going to say, and you're going to think about the facts of the situation. You're going to think about how it truly made you feel and why. And you're going to go in and explain what happened and why you feel the way that you feel. And also what you need. If you don't know what you need to fix it, or if you don't know how to fix it, then that's where better communication comes in. Hey, listen, this really bothered me, and the way you said it really bothered me. but I don't really know what I need. I don't know if there was a better way to say it. Can we come up with a better plan? Can we just make a decision and figure out what that would look like? And a lot of times they'll be like, yeah, I can be a little harsh. I can try harder to not say things in maybe the way they talk to their work people or some of their friends. They can be super blunt with, and they can say things in ways that aren't super nice, but their friends are fine with it because they're used to them. Maybe all the friends communicate that way. But with you, we need to be a little more tender because of past or whatever it is. So I need you to be a little more thoughtful when you say things. And I need you to not come in, as a director, and not come in as a boss, and not come in as my supervisor. Because sometimes it's like, oh, are you ordering me to do something? Like, what is happening here? Why are you talking to me like that? And maybe it's just the way they speak. But if you don't like that and you don't want them speaking to you that way, then you can have the conversation and you can say no. You get to say no. If someone comes to you with a request you're not comfortable with, you get to say no. And if they're asking you to do something that goes against your values and goes against what you want, you get to say no. No is a complete sentence. However, if we're wanting to stick to the principles of good communication and being a good partner, then there may be some explanation that you want to give. And it could be, I really don't feel comfortable with that. So no, I don't want to go to that place because the last time we were there, the people at the party or your friend group, there may be somebody in your friend group that they don't get along with. So you go hang out with them. I just don't like the way he acts, or I don't like the way she acts. I don't like the way they talk to you. Whatever it is. So I'm going to pass because it really just causes me more stress. And I know it causes you more stress because it's causing me more stress. So to make everyone feel better, you go alone. And if they don't want to go alone, then you have that conversation of setting up some boundaries for while you're there. If it gets to be too much, or if they start in, how you're going to handle it, set up a plan for wherever you're going or whatever you're doing. There's always a compromise that can be made. And sometimes that compromise is, I don't think that we should be together. And they say, yeah, I don't think I can meet your needs either. And you're not together anymore. Though it doesn't sound like a compromise, it is. And sometimes when those relationships end, it is super heartbreaking. It is really hard when you have to have those conversations that are the end. And it's hard to end those relationships where my needs aren't being met, but I was happy, or I can't meet their needs, but they're happy and we're happy, but I can't make it work. I'm not in a good headspace, whatever it is. It's okay to just leave that relationship regardless of how it ended. I've had my heart broke for sure. I have broke hearts. And what I take from, the heartbreak is, but it was so good. Like it hurt a lot in the end, but man, I was happy. Like it was the best in the beginning. It was great until it wasn't. And thinking about those good times and how that relationship did meet your needs, and maybe figuring out what changed, and maybe the person you're with changed. Maybe you changed. Maybe something happened and it just didn't work out. But it's nice to look back and go, man, it's heartbreaking still or whatever, but man, I was really happy. And I can remember doing this, and I remember when they were messaging me, and again, it like we talked about before, those other episodes, when you look at your phone and you smile because it's them, or you get to see them and you're so excited and you still get butterflies even though it's been a while. Like those were the best feelings. And it really sucks I don't have that anymore. But I know that I can. I know that part of me is not broken. I just have to find someone who's going to respect that. And that's ultimately what we're all looking for, is someone who's going to respect us, someone who's going to respect our values, and someone who's going to just make us feel good in a relationship, even in friendships. It's hard, especially if you've had friends for a very long time, but they're draining you. Every time the phone rings or you get a message from them, it's exhausting because life is really hard or whatever it is, and they're just taking advantage, and they're someone who it's never mutual. Maybe they don't ever ask about you. Maybe they're not checking in on you. They only message when they need something. It's okay to cut those people out of your lives, or have that conversation of, listen, I feel like the only time we talk is when you need something. And that's not okay with me. And you're checking in with them though. You're doing your part. You're communicating, you're reaching out. You may get 1 or 2 word answers, but then you get these big long texts or calls or whatever when they need something, or and it may not be something concrete like money or a favor. It may just be because they need to vent that day or they need to reach out. And it's great that they consider you a safe person and they want you to be a part of that and they can reach out to you. But what are they providing for you? How is it going both ways? And if it's this person, maybe they just started this because there's all of this going on in their life. Maybe they are going through a breakup, maybe job, maybe work, maybe whatever. Like, okay, we can give them some leeway if that's the only time you hear from. Like, I feel like I've been a terrible friend. Like I said last podcast, if I was in a relationship, I would not be given a lot. Like, I feel like I've been a terrible friend to a lot of people because I haven't reached out and I haven't checked in. But I try to be very mindful about that, because when I get stressed, and work has been insanely stressful lately, I turtle. I go into myself, and there's a limited amount of people that I talk to on a regular basis, but I try to reach out to all my friends. I try to check in, especially if I know something is going on with them. And then I feel bad because I haven't checked in enough, and I just beat myself up for it. But I also know I am one person and I struggle just like everyone else, and I'm human, and I give myself that grace to know, yeah, I haven't checked in fully, but I know that my friends understand that. And when I check in and we talk about it, they're like, oh my gosh, no wonder I hadn't heard from you. Like, yeah, my bad. I'm going to try to do better with that. So it's about owning what's going on, knowing, I know that I do that. So when I'm especially stressed, one of the things I try to do is to make sure I reach out to people. I try to make sure that I'm checking in on everyone else. And it's not because I want them to check on me back. It's not that, well, yeah, how are you? I'm like, oh my God, you're not I literally cleaned up shit this week at work. Like, literally cleaned up shit. I'm not reaching out so they'll ask how I am. I'm reaching out because I want to make that connection. I'm reaching out because I know somebody may not be reaching out, and checking in and doing the things. And it feels good to me to have my friends, and it feels good to me to know that I'm a person that they can talk to. So I like that, and I want to be able to provide that for them. And I think it's important that it goes both ways. There's a lot of friendships that I've cut off over the years because it wasn't mutual. If I didn't message them, I would never hear from them. And I'm like, why am I checking in on this person? Why am I the one that's messaging? And we had a good friendship, and every time we talked, it would be good communication. But if I didn't check in, I wouldn't hear from them. And so I ended those friendships. They just kind of tapered themselves off because I didn't message. So it's not like they messaged me and said, hey, where you been? Like, I never heard from them. So it really wasn't a great friendship. And I think sometimes we keep friendships because we feel obligated to. We feel like we've had it for so long. And it's where that communication comes in. Life is a struggle a lot of days. And even when we're having a great time, we don't want to waste our efforts and our energy on someone who's not going to reciprocate that when they can. Value that communication and expect it from other people. For my producer, Jay Lindley, I'm Leslie Ross. Thank you all for joining us. Please send any questions or comments through the website, heytherapist.com, or email help@heytherapist.com. They may be featured on the show anonymously. Hey Therapist is an SEOK radio production and is for your entertainment purposes only. Thank you for joining us. Make good choices.